Hello, fellow co-creators. Welcome back to Seeds of Elegance. Today, I'm with my friend Jim Freda. He is a deep tissue body worker, a somatic-social theorist, and his interests are in the role of the body, culture, society, and history, and what he calls deep core anatomy. And, I usually give a longer intro to what Elegance Lab and Seeds of Elegance is before I introduce the person. But today I felt like this summary is what Elegance Lab is. So I could just be like, let me just read this. And because everything that I do is about emergence, increasingly creative emergence, I would like to just tell the story of our connection quickly and
Oh,
allow this this experience to be a place of continued learning about each other.
I
So,
love it.
yeah, me too. I'm so happy that you're here, Muscle Monk.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
Jim also goes by
Oh,
the name Muscle Monk, which we'll get into. The work that I do is highly relational, and most people, if you have noticed, that I have interviewed on this show are people who I have worked with or studied with or gone through some path of life with. I prefer when the relationship is at the core of what we are discussing, not just the subject matter itself, because the subject matter is living and it lives through our relationship. And that being said, most of the people on this platform so far have been somatic workers within the space of sexuality and feminine healing. And I have been holding an attention now in the 2 years that I've done this work of male collaborators wanting to work with men and
pick
also
me, pick me.
wanting to deepen the conversation outside of the hole that our modern discourse of somatics has gotten pigeonholed into to the larger cosmic earth environmental experience that we are and that we are in. And Jim is someone who came into my world via the platform Substack, which has many creative thinkers and people who are challenging and pushing boundaries, who fits in those categories, someone who is a male and who is seeking to serve people in deeply embodied experiences and seeking to expand the definition of what embodiment is. And when we met initially several months ago, it was like this is like the most I've ever talked on a call with him because usually we're just back and forth. It was so resonant, it was so alive, it was so joyful, and it was such a question of just like, okay, what are we doing and when, as opposed, you know, uh, let's plan in a notebook the agenda items of how the next thing will go, which I believe is how our future unfolding will get to be is going to be so energetic, so alive, so passionate, so excited, so different than the models we have today because it is coming from the movement within us. And that is a phrase that I got through Jim. So, hello, friends. Anything you want to add to that?
Oh my goodness, everything. Go right ahead though. I'll get my turn.
Okay. Well, I would love to give you the opportunity to ground us in an introduction to
Oh,
you
mm,
and the
mm,
seed of elegance that you are holding for our
mm,
collective. I call these seeds because we do not know even what they will grow here. We are not
mm.
here to talk. We are here to initiate, welcome, and offer a seed, a possibility that can be planted into the consciousness of this collective.
A seed is a model. A seed is a model that has a model. And the seed is the model of what it's going to become. But within the seed, in the germ, in the DNA, the seed has a model. So we are both a model of the world around us, and we contain that model within. And so I want to invite people. This is like really, this is this new physics of life that I'm talking about, active inference, and it gets me so excited. And the model of life gets back to that cellular structure. Like anything that's alive has to have a kind of an outer boundary, or anything that exists, has to have an outer boundary. And in time, even this will rust and decay and lose its integrity, its thingness, its identity. Living organisms have to maintain that boundary as a vital kind of project, an automated homeostatic project that comes from within. And this is life. And we're always looking on the outside. Science has us always seeing on the outside, which is called exteroception, external awareness, using our external five senses and our skin and our external limbs. And we really only see the outside form, and we don't see as well within, and we don't see from within, starting with ourselves. And so this model that these neurophysicists are talking about is really trying to map that internal dimension called, it's called, properly speaking, not interoception, but proprioception. But I want to invite you right now, and if you're listening, and introduce myself. My name is Musclemonk, and that's an identity I created to express the new perceptual mode that I was encountering within as a body worker, a massage therapist, as a student of fascial anatomy, as a deep thinker, and that anatomical construct is this axial core construct. It's a real thing, and in a sense, it starts from the tongue, and it doesn't go down the throat. It goes down the front of the spine, in the cervical muscles, in the perineum around the heart, the diaphragm, the psoas, through the pelvis, and down the legs into the soles of the feet and the big toe. And it's a continuity, it's a structure, and it has a purpose, which is to hold us together from the inside. So when I go like this, those postural muscles are holding me together on the inside, including the rotator cuff muscles, but this axial structure. And this is alive, and it's a form of identity. And this is what's really important to understand, is that we have an identity on the outside. This is who I am. I'm an old guy with the beard, and I'm a teeny tiny bit overweight, and et cetera, and I'm white, and I'm male, and I'm sitting here, and this is what I look like, and this is what I do from the outside, but I also live on the inside. And if I can know that, then when I look at you or a tree or the landscape or anything really, I can start to see it from the inside. Not that that's easy or automatic or instantaneous, but that it is a cognitive, neurological potential that we have that's actually always functioning, but that we can enrich it and become more metacognitive about it. So I want to invite you to come inside with me. And is this okay, Libby? I'm not talking too long?
No, and I'll actually, maybe I'll just add real quick before you.
Yeah.
I also should note that I'm over here like a student today. I'm like, so can you define those words? But
Oh, I'm so sorry. I always do that.
No, I'm just like, it's just the I'm aware that I am attending this lecture more than I'm hosting. Because I'm excited. And I just want to add in the identity piece real quick, because this was something that connected us as well when we first were talking with Musclemonk, and with, for me, using the term creatrix Libby.
Yeah.
I love how you talked about how the inner experience is actually what gave voice to this name, because creatrix for me was like, I need I've had this back and forth with the identity of woman in my life, period. Like I studied a training that centralizes my reconnection to my body as a woman. But I also uh desired to oh thanks. I also desire to be connected to all that I am that is also beyond gender, but I also loved this reclamation of the feminine side of myself and my relationship to intelligence because I was raised with such a strong capital G God, God as man complex. And woman is bad, woman is Eve, woman is cause of sin, woman is, all the causes of the problems of the world thing, that there needed to be this merging, and creatrix means divine feminine creator. And it was just like this. It's playful, it's fun, it's silly, it's an invocation of magic for me, and beginning to
Yeah,
play with
yeah.
and centralizing magic in what I do, and letting that word be explored and thrown back at the person in front of me, even as we had last,
Mm.
but also like claiming this body that I typically have seen as the opposite of the creative intelligence as fundamental and a part of that intelligence.
Yeah, the source of it. It's a source of intelligence. Um, it has to be a source of intelligence in order to get up and, um, pick up a cup of coffee, right? Because that's coming from within. I mean, we have a certain amount of control. And this is a very, very profound area of study, motor control theory. How in the hell do we organize the body to move it? And the answer, a large part of the answer that science is starting to recognize is that, we don't do it from top down. It does it itself. It does a large amount of it itself automatically. Um, just like those little wind up robots, they just go, and they're not very sophisticated, but so I want to take us inside a little bit into an example of this. And I just want to throw this out there and see if this helps to ground it and make sense. And it's something that we can do here in this very limited kind of headspace, talking heads context of Zoom, because really the body is all off screen.
Yep.
And the system starts in the face. The postural system pervades the entire body, just like the exteroceptive volitional, movement system is the whole body. But that postural system is located everywhere. And of course, it's located up here at this end of the tube of our vertebrate structure, in this kind of opening of the tube. And there's another one down in the groin, of course. But the purpose of the inner core, the postural system, the purpose of the inside is very homeostatic. And it's really consists not of these big movements, but micro movements. And homeostatic means that it's always seeking balance and integration, just like we see in nature. It's always seeking integration. And so how does that look? What does posture look like in the face? Well, I'll tell you what, it's not this. And I have a beard, so it's hard to see I could be crying in a circle and people don't even know because of like my beard, and because I hide it. But this is not posture. That's not posture. Or this is not posture. Or this is not posture. Posture is when the body comes together in a sustainable kind of stability. And this is what orofacial posture looks like. And I'm not smiling for you. Like, I'd be like, okay, thanks, Libby. This is a smile for me. This is a gentle inner smile. And let's look at the biomechanics so that we can understand the muscular basis, the real felt, palpable, a fancy word is haptic, basis of this system. So what happens when we come together? Well, in the face, which is a very special case because it's so much on the outside, and it's still on the inside though. It's really where inside and outside meet, kind of in the most dramatic way. We come together. So the jaw comes together lightly. It's not hanging open. The the teeth are sort of lightly together, not grinding, but just they're present to each other. And the tongue naturally comes up and fills the mouth, and it rests on that upper palate, that classic yogic meditation position. The tongue naturally. Now, I have to breathe through my nose because my mouth is closed. We're not smiling yet, but we've got this much of the mechanics. I have to breathe through my nose, and I feel that air coming through the radiator of the sinuses. Now that might make me smile. And what happens is then the pucker of the face is activated by the zygomatic, the cheek muscles, and the ocularis orbis, or hey, how you doing, buddy? The eye muscles. And we get this little pucker where we really kind of come together. And it's just a terrible, light little micro movement. I'm really doing it for myself. And where is this really helpful? Well, maybe I'm sitting on my bed, or I'm sitting on the patio at night, and I'm thinking about the goddamn world and all of the stuff going on, or my life and all of the stuff going on that seems out of my control. And I can't stop the thinking, and I feel bad. Well, if I put this little smile on, it's a mechanical gesture. It's mechanical. I can do it mechanically. Now, if I'm really feeling bad, I'm not going to smile. I'm going to wait until it's passed a little bit. And then I can do this intervention and breathe and do it with me. Put a little smile, a little inner smile. This is just for yourself. This is not a performance for anyone else. And that is going to breathe through that and hold that long enough. That is going to directly access the vagal nerve and go right straight into, that fight and flight center in the brain. And it's going to generate oscillations. It's going to shift your mood very powerfully. Give it a try. The next time you're kind of perseverating or down on yourself or down on someone else or down on the world, and you're like, I'm done. I don't need to be in this space anymore. Try that gentle inner smile. And that smile is a kind of a grip. You're getting a grip on yourself. It's an easy way to get a grip on yourself in a way that really reflects that inner flow and emergence of elegance, which is beauty and goodness and happiness, and it feels good. So the gentle inner smile is one of the practices of the deep core, where the deep core emerges to the surface here in this very important kind of social processing system. There.
Thank you. I remember when we first met and you mentioned that, and hearing the way that you described it as connected to the systems of the body stuck with
Yeah.
me. Even in the next couple of days, I found myself leading into it more. And it's interesting as well, just because there's that concept as women that we're told to smile. And so then there's like we're not going to smile. And
I get that a lot. Yeah, I get that a
okay.
lot. I'm not going to smile. You got to make me smile. And I was like, well, why not? What's wrong with it? And so I emphasize, it's not a smile for someone else. It's a smile for the self. And it's really is a very powerful inroad into the vagal system. But you don't have to have any big words and neuroscientific theories. I mean, it's absolutely kind of automatic and natural. And, now if I'm really screaming at myself, and I had this, experience, I've had this experience where I'm screaming at myself negativity for some reason. And it's like a scream. And then I've had the experience, where it's like, okay, a little gentle smile isn't going to be enough. I'm alone. I'm at home. I'm in my kitchen. And I just put on a gigantic, fierce smile, like, yay! And hold that for a while. And because that was the volume level that I needed in that moment. But typically, and then also what happens is that when you affirm the jaw, you affirm the anterior neck. So this head forward slouch is a result of atrophy of the jaw bone itself, but also of the muscles, and a loss of presence and sensation in the anterior cervicals. And so our head's hanging the slouch. So when we bring awareness into this large bony serval mechanism at the center of the system, now that bone, the jaw, just connects to the skull. It's the only moving bone of the skull, but it also connects to the throat or the neck down here. And when we bring awareness into this system, then the cervical spine and the head naturally floats above the torso better. And that's a way to really deal with the slouch. And so this is an energetic.
It's the women that are supposed to go out for coffee.
Hello, humans.
So it's an energetic postural correction that's really gentle and simple. And then what's important is to understand that this is not an isolated system. Just like your arm is not isolated from it is isolated from the spine, but it's connected through the ribs. Everything is connected. This inner system is connected. So that smile and this system, of course, has a lot to do with the vestibular balance system and the body-wide core. So it really brings us into ourselves. This is sort of the Musclemonk How to Save the World with Muscle lecture.
I really thank you. I'm super hot here. I'm just like, that's this lecture with less clothes on.
Yeah. We can get into the core, the inner core, the deep inner core, the axis. Why is it that we don't talk about it? And that's because, well, look at this sensitive tissue here. Look at this erogenous zones located on the core and in the groin. And the inner self-presencing in that core involves everything on the axial line, which includes the genitals, the perineum, and so feeling really comfortable with yourself from the inside out really requires processing a lot of trauma around that. And it is the way to process the trauma through these gentle micro movements, affirming that structure, toning the muscles of the structure so that they're more responsive and adaptive and less downtone.
That's what?
Downtone, meaning loss of tone, loss of awareness, loss of vitality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I would love to bring a couple different things, questions, observations.
Thank you for your hard work listening.
Thank you for speaking, and I put myself off camera for viewers, but if you see me coughing over here, I'm coming out. I don't get sick that often, but last week I do want to like speak into this because it has to do with this. You know, yes, there's viral things around, but I haven't gotten something in a while. And I've been in a state right now where I'm continuously saying yes to some deeper guidance in my system. And
nice.
like last Thursday at this time, actually almost exactly at this time, I got done with a couple of calls and I went and sat in a chair and I was like, I'm so tired, which happens when a lot's moving. But I felt my whole muscle system, or I don't know, just ache over the course of the hour. It was like aching came over my body. And I was like, okay, I know there is stuff going around, but this is something coming out. That is what it felt like. And it's also with a sore throat, but I laid Thursday. I just laid in bed and I let it come. Like I'm meditating. I'm very sensitive with my body, and I try to speak to my body in a way where I'm saying, bring me the intelligence. Bring me the intelligence, bring me the wisdom that you want to bring me.
Yeah. And sometimes that means surrendering to the healing mechanism and just going through it. And it sure is nice to have a hand to hold at that time.
Indeed.
You know, it's nice to not have to be alone, but usually we are.
And so without making that present moment experience that I'm in with my little health issue about myself right now, I want to bring that because listening to the body, including in the dis-ease state, is important to me. But what you're speaking to, I'm a I'm always in the state of like innovation, which is like take the science and apply it, take the science and apply it. And not every
Oh my goodness. That's the era that we live in, Libby. That's the time we're living in. Never more so than now with the internet now.
Mm. So I'd want to make sure like not to do that straight away because it also just gets to live like and become what it
Mhm.
is. But I just want to reflect back like a couple of thoughts that pop in my mind as you're speaking are so in COVID, I had the first like this kind of neck pain that I had never had. And it's because I was working on screens more than I ever had in my life. And now you can actually see because there's a window behind me and you can see it reflected. I actually use this little stand that allows my device to be up so that I'm not leaning down.
Oh,
But this is
oh,
actually not good for your typing hands, and I do type a lot. So there's it's both and.
oh.
But this normal the normalcy of being in this posture as humans right now.
Mm-hmm,
You know, it's
mm-hmm.
like the shirts that show mankind evolving from ape and
Uh-huh.
and then being here. Like we are when you were talking about the jaw and the neck and this
Mm-hmm,
whole structure and the arms, I'm like, for a majority of us who are working on
mm-hmm.
screens 9 hours a day, like
Yeah.
I know it's not the norm for everyone, but I also work around
Oh no,
aesthetics
it's
right now
worse than
where,
that.
yep, it's like we are, I'm someone who's very, very, I think a lot about sometimes the wave of of something simple that goes across our collective, something seemingly simple. So when I was a kid, I would always think about it in songs. Like when a pop song was big, I'd be like, everyone's listening to this song and this
Mm-hmm.
feeling. And like that feeling is, I would be like, I wonder how many people kissed to this song at this moment.
Yeah.
Like, because I didn't have a word for energy, but I was sensitive to like
Yeah.
something being sent out through that. And so while there's all kinds of things being that have shifted through our relationship to technology and all kinds of unconscious action that are taking place, I just want to uplift like the power of that I see. I know there's all kinds of depth your work can offer, and like a very, very particular place could literally be for people who are over, like for the vast majority of us who work on screens who are overworked,
Oh
who are
yeah.
not thinking about this region.
So
And
I'm a body worker and I'm a scholar and I'm an anatomical scholar and I say social somatic social theorist, but posture is social
mm,
and historical and so I'm very much I can talk for a long time with solid references to the literature about the what's called the pathoetiology or the cause of what I call postural collapse syndrome,
mm,
meaning that the structure, it's a single structure. So if this goes, we all know, those of us in the field, you know, if the hip goes, well, so does the neck. And if the feet go, so does the hip, so does the neck and the arms and also the thoracolumbar junction. The
whoa.
whole body kind of goes, wonk, and not immediately, but in a chronic developmental sense and very pervasively and very commonly. Yeah. So this is something that I'm as a professional, as a healer, as a manual therapist, as a structural body worker. This is something that I've been working with for a long time, and this is an area of expertise. And the chronic joint maladaptations or chronic joint pain or chronic joint disorders, postural collapse, is really what motivated me to go deep within to this system and identify what is the postural system anatomically. You can ask other people that they won't be able to answer clearly. We've taken it for granted and we've treated it dismissively. But when we grasp that system, that means we're getting a grip on ourselves. And that means that now the body can coordinate itself rather than me fixing my posture like this. It's going to happen from within automatically. And yeah, we need some tips to correct our behaviors. And there's a certain healing process, and the tissues may need to be released, and there could be other serious problems. But in general, the body wants to do it, wants to be alive, and I don't want to say erect, but long and light and grounded and balanced. This is automatic. We have to work really hard to screw that up. And then that's what we've done with our world, is screwed that up.
Thank you so much for speaking into that quality, the automatic side.
Mm-hmm.
It's also, I don't have the scientific background or language or anatomy of the body like this, but on I sometimes just think of myself more like spiritual philosopher. And what I increasingly with my work with liberatory love, I'm always centering our wholeness. And so as you speak about, like you already spoke about, integrate the body, I think you framed it as the body wants to integrate or naturally.
The body is essentially integrative, just like a tree is. Like the tree is not out there trying to mess up its neighbors. It's trying to build an ecosystem around itself. The body from within is essentially integrative. From without, it's somewhat immoral. It's kind of more relativistic in that sense. Like the intellect can kind of just say anything it wants, but the right hemispheric kind of awareness is sort of being said by the system. And the system, so long as it's healthy, is expressing an integrative homeostatic drive. And that really is the key to the challenge we face, is coming into contact with that inner kind of integrative homeostatic kind of wisdom of the earth and the body.
Okay.
Sorry. I got you rolling, don't
I? Yes.
You were talking about but please go ahead. And the Musclemonk is a force of nature, maybe, and it's always a challenge to because I'm so excited about what I've learned and what I have to teach. It's a challenge sometimes to open up and really listen, and it's wonderful to have someone who's so eloquent and who's such a gifted communicator and thinker to talk with. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, I mean it. I'm not just being flattery. It's really fun. It's really cool.
And there's so much more to come. That's what I want to
share.
Even as we have the conversation, we're conversing and welcoming. I am at least.
Yeah.
There's another area, because we are conversing and welcoming, and I like to also invite, for people who listen, please share your questions, we're both on Substack, or obviously my Instagram or my email. Most people who are on this know. Please share your questions, share your curiosities, because this can actually inform an event that we would host or another conversation we would have. But I really want to ask another question. I want to ask I'm going to choose to ask all three questions, okay?
Okay. 3 of them.
The first is the deep core. I want to go back to that. The deep core, one thing I really appreciate when I hear you talk about it, even though I don't fully grasp it, but what I appreciate and what I witness is that I feel I'm being directed to an inner guidance that is innate, that is situated at the heart of the muscles, which feels less like, even though I love yoga, I have many people who are attracted to health practices that are very routine. In yoga, those of us who are very routine dedicated, we're called Raja yogis. I think I have that right. It's been a while since I studied those yoga. There's bhakti, people who love worship and love. There's jnana, which is people who love knowledge and wisdom. And there's karma, people who love action, and then the Raja Yogis are the ones who are like, give me the ritual.
Uh-huh.
And
I didn't know all that. That's fun.
yeah, it's a very fun
Yeah.
consideration of how we as humans
Mm.
like to find the divine in our own way. Well, the sometimes for those of us who are very discipline focused, there's a joy in discipline, but there can also be, for me, it can be a lot of I need to control. I need to control. I need to get my body right in the right position in the right. And when the reversal that somatics has also begun to brought me is more of an innate, like there's something in me that innately can guide, like knows the thing that I need or want. I don't have to force it to do it. And I think this is a both and that we get to discipline ourselves, but also that it is innate. It's not so, on the spiritual sense, I'm not so broken needing saving. I actually
Mm.
am whole. Okay, I'm putting that there. I know that I could just pause and let you answer, but I want to let your being
We got
connect.
number two.
So that's one, deep core. This number two is about also on the deep core, but it's about this space of we haven't discussed this in this environment, but you and I discussed this a bit prior. We both talked about tantra-based experiences, tantra as art for bringing people more into their sexuality, that don't feel held when in a tantric environment, a space that's
Mm. Oh my God. Yeah.
opening your
Oh my God.
does not have for
Yeah.
validation, some of the consequences of that.
Oh, so hard. It's so hard, especially for those of us that are sensitive and self-conscious and maybe haven't always fit in, and we know we don't fit in. And then you go to a workshop or something, and the way people are fitting in, the politics kind of excludes you,
Mm,
or even maybe you exclude yourself from those politics,
yeah.
and maybe it's combined. And then because the innards are being kind of exposed, and I mean, I've had very traumatic experiences with say my first experience of touch of the vagal system, which is the deep core.
Mhm.
I started crying,
Mm.
and this advanced yoga teacher who was doing it said, "Okay, I'm done," and walked away.
Ugh.
And yeah, and I was just like, "Don't leave, just don't leave me alone." And luckily, the teacher came right over and administered to me. But you know, it's because I'm a big, gruff white guy, and it's just like, "Oh, your tears are fake. I'm done here,"
Mm.
and it's like, you
Wait,
know,
wait.
yeah. So
And
it's really important what you're saying. I love it. Keep continue. Sorry to interrupt, but
yeah,
I love it.
thank you for adding because that was,
Yeah,
I'll also just give a little context when we had first begun talking about that. You were able to share about an experience that left you feeling very,
yeah, different one. Yeah, different one with gay guys. With gay guys. Yeah,
and
yeah.
then for me, I was actually carrying a lot of uh, guilt, and it's not just guilt, but I actually have a lot of questions about how to be a practitioner of this in a
Mm,
way that
mm,
is
mm.
sustainable. And I had had an experience with somebody who I did something I really desire not to do anymore, but sometimes you have to learn it to experience it,
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
mixing coaching and a romantic relationship. And there was so much sadness for me because of the separate, we both have superpowers that we were bringing each other. It wasn't one-sided. Like we were both bringing each other superpowers, I believe, but we are both super heart-centered people. And there was a separation that happened between us that was so destabilizing for me, and that I also feared that I maybe created an unsafe environment for him that also made him
Mm.
prefer to separate. There's so much complexity in this. We
Yeah.
have had like made peace about us each
Mm.
the best we can where we're at. We both have a heart to help many more people, but it was so like, oh, this cannot just be as somebody who loves experimentation and loves play, there is something that feels very violating about the recklessness that these deep tools being like administered in very woo ways are being done. Like it doesn't, I want to be more in the know. I seek responsibility with the power of these tools. And I know we could pause there, but the third question has to do with, it still has to do with this because it's the evolution of science. But it's my belief that, well, I'm bringing the question to you because you are somebody who's has some of this academic background on some of these subjects in a way that, like, I've read the scientific structure of the evolution. Thomas Kuhn, okay? Sorry, I'm
Oh, Kuhn is great.
look. That was like,
A theory of scientific
there
revolutions
we
or
go.
something like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely seminal text. One of the
Uh,
most cited texts out there. Paradigm shift is what that book gave us, is the concept of paradigm shift, which is always accompanied by resistance,
mhm.
understandably.
Yeah. And one of the paradigm shifts that I believe is happening, and I'm just putting it here and opening your thoughts on it as well. I don't quite know how to put the words to it, but it's my belief that if science is not just, if our scientific process evolves into something beyond just the material, even though that sounds like it's not science anymore, but we know that it actually,
Nope, nope.
okay.
This new biophysics or physics of life or neurophysics or whatever the hell we're going to call it, and it's very new. It's been a project underway for 150 years, but this current effort called active inference, to me, is the most comprehensive and definitive expression of it. And it really is taking science, um, taking the externalities that science has been fixated on, and kind of bringing it within.
Mhm.
Um, uh, and so it is a new level of science. It's Newton himself. Newton is the one who made the point that, look, the planets are not flying around in the ether being pulled by gods in chariots.
Yep.
It's not this mythic thing. They're just rocks obeying the same principle as this apple dropping to the earth.
Mm.
And then this is a mind blower. This is a paradigm shift. And people are like, wow,
Mm.
everything is kind of mechanical and logical. Now we can become rational. This is the Enlightenment, the age of reason and science. But it was only dead things. It's only chemicals and
Mhm.
waves and energy and looking at things as if they're not alive from the outside, right? And then Descartes says, yeah, anything on the inside of the body, it's not meaningful. Res extensa, it doesn't have a mind. It doesn't have wisdom. It's just a thing. And so the Newton himself said, look, this science, these laws that govern inanimate matter must be very, very different there must be a different set of laws that govern the life, which is so much more complex, living things. Newton himself and every major physicist has sort of made that kind of, Maxwell and Einstein have all made this kind of, science itself is um, the product of a methodological compromise where we said we're only going to look at externalities in an objective and reductionist way, because otherwise we just can't figure it out. It's too complicated on the inside. It's too much. So science mastered that, and we have AI and nanotech. But then in the process, we forgot that we made this compromise. It was a tactical choice. It was a methodological decision to sort of repress everything else on the inside, or the organic workings of life. And since we've forgotten that we've done that, we're going around brutalizing life and ourselves with the power that we have through these externalities. And so obviously this is a project that we've been working on as a historian from the very beginning of modernity, when Copernicus and Vesalius co-published in 1543 till today. And that new emergent science is going to reflect an inner shift and sensitivity that you're sensing and you're representing. And it would be nice if the doctors and the scientists really had that inner sensitivity. That would really change our world. That's the revolution. Yeah.
So beautiful. And that is,
Mm.
I love the phrase inner sensitivity. Thank you. Um,
Yeah, it's a very deep inner rational sensitivity And this new physics of life, it's mathematical. I don't understand any of the math. It's neuroscientific. I don't understand. Sorry about the trucks here. There's a lot of construction in this little town.
It's okay.
But
Actually, let's take 1 minute. I'm gonna run to the bathroom because I've been drinking endless tea for the
pause.
throat. And then please let's continue on this inner physics.
Oh, okay.
And
Fine.
I'm gonna bring one thing while I run off screen, which is excuse me, this beautiful throat. Thank you. It's
I'm sorry.
what you know, no worries. It's what you know or believe, or yeah, if you could shed some light on in this science, in this new science emergence, our capacity
Yeah.
to own our perception in the process.
Oh.
That
Oh.
that okay, I'll put her back.
Okay. Well, Libby said she doesn't edit these videos, so I'm going to go ahead and entertain the audience here for a minute, which I certainly am capable of doing, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that perception and the new science, it's a neurophysics, it's neurology, so it's very much about perception, and it defines three perceptual systems in the body. So if we see the body as having an outside and an inside, that's two perceptual systems. And there's a third, which is the surface that separates the outside and the inside. The surface has an outside, but the surface has an inside. And so there are two perceptual systems. I just, so you don't have to edit, I started an explanation. And,
Go.
and I think
It's
it's, I'll do it. I'll do it again. This is really, really cool stuff. This is really basic stuff. There are three perceptual systems in the body. And this comes from Charles Sherrington in 1906. And he called them the three receptor systems, but they're exteroception and then proprioception. Now, proprio is like a proprietor, it means the owner. So exteroception means awareness of everything on the outside. We need to be aware of everything on the outside so I can blink my eye when a twig comes, or a bug comes, right? And we need to be aware on the outside so that I understand. Don't go over there, that dark alley. Don't, over here. Smell. I smell something, that feels like I want to eat that, or I want to just go there. That's exteroception, the outer side of the surface. Proprioception, Sherrington was very careful to emphasize. Proprioception, it means awareness of the self. The self's awareness of itself, shielded from everything else going on the outside. And that's this deep, he located that in this is the deep core and the axial line, the deep postural system. He was very clear about that. And that postural system is in the arm and in the legs and in the neck. But there's an axial system, and that's where the body knows itself. So if I come over here like this, that axial system shifts so that I don't give myself a slip disc. It automatically compensates. And it might seem like, yeah, that's the, back pain, and that's the, it's like, that's not important, but oh, yes, it is, because that is like the closest juicy muscular system right next to the spine, right inside all of the organs, right in the juiciest, most important, and most intelligent part of the body, right by the spine. And so that's a very rich area for neuroscientific, but it's a very rich area for awareness and perception. The third system is the inner side of the surface. So we have the outside of the surface, and my lips can feel, something. But when the thing comes inside of me, right, when the elements pass through the cell wall, chemicals, air, water, viruses, other organisms, energy, light, heat, cold, when they pass through the surface, they're processed by a different system called interoception. And that's a limited system. It's a visceral gut system. It doesn't have the same dimension of kind of self-awareness of this is me on the outside, exteroception, and this is me on the inside, in an animal, nonverbal, profound way, proprioception. And we spent a lot of time studying interoception, and we haven't spent much time studying this inner deep proprioception. Proprioception means self-awareness. Proprio is self. Ception is awareness, sensory. So it's self-awareness. And this is really the dimension that I speak to when I talk about the deep core. And the interesting thing about the science, the new physics, is that it defines these three systems as it must, because it's a neurological theory. And those three systems are fundamental to neuroscience. But it really ignores the proprioceptive one. And that's my job, is to kind of talk to these guys and say, don't you think this is a problem? And it's a model that creates a model that it's called a Markov blanket, but that sense of a surface with an outside and an inside, that's a model. And we have that model. We are the model, and we have that model. And we use that model mathematically, statistically. I don't understand how neuroscientifically, proprioceptively, anatomically, dialogically, emotionally, we can use that model to regulate ourselves and monitor our interaction with the environment so that we experience less unexpected results of our actions, so that we can, and when I say unexpected results of our actions, that would include culture shock, and that would include the mess that we're in. And so updating the model, revising that model, but first being aware, possessing that model, it's a perceptual model. And when we can identify those three different areas of perception, and we can say, well, which one is a little bit overbalanced? Which one is a little bit underactivated? Which one is a little bit, isn't really speaking to me? And then we can start to make inferences or very educated decisions, because this is a neuroscientific and a mathematical, a computative model. And we can start to make really, just like I'm saying, as a body worker, I'm looking at the model and I'm saying, okay, well, this area of the system needs more tone, needs more vitality. And so how are you going to bring vitality to this area of the system? Well, it's a gentle smile. And so sometimes the solutions are very elegant, very intuitive. Oh my goodness.
Things going by over there.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I know I just talk off in my own space.
Receiving.
Yeah. But
Thank
I
you.
wanted to say something. Oh God, you went to your second point. What was your second point again?
About tantra and creating environments where working with the
Oh yeah.
sacral energy and the sexual energy in the
Oh.
body can be safely worked with. What's worked.
Mm, mm, yeah. I wanted to say an image came into my mind about a bird flying through the sky. And it has a very important role in the ecosystem because its poop is going to contain seeds of what it ate.
Mm.
And it's just randomly dropping the ecosystem back to the earth. Now, sometimes those seeds land on a roof and they're not going to grow, but sometimes they grow on the roof.
Mm.
And here in Portland, we build roofs that are designed to receive that. And you have this natural wild ecosystem on the roof that they don't encourage people to walk on. It really is a sort of an ecosystem. And it's like, yeah, this is the birds made it. And it's kind of like, sort of like our search for meaning and stability and the trauma and the disappointments that we experience. On one hand, it's a barren soil, and that's hard. And that's a problem that we have to fix. And that's the problem that you and me are trying to fix, and a lot of us are trying to fix, is to create a more rich and vital soil so those seeds can drop and live. But also just remember that is the way it is. And it doesn't mean that things are random. It means that things are rich. And it means that although we get knocked down in one point, don't give up, because that seed is going to take root, and many seeds are going to take root. it's our job to sort of build the fertile soil.
Mm.
And yeah, healing, the closer we get to the truth and to life, the closer we get to trauma
Mm.
and healing. And healing is an innate property of life and
Mm.
our bodies,
Mm.
and our words, and elegance, if you want to say, is almost like genuine inner elegance. Like that is a kind of a healing thing. It's like elegance would be like, here, let me embrace, something like that in
Yeah.
my mind, in my mind.
And the care. I remember also when we were first discussing this, we were talking about the care needed. And I just, or yeah, I just want to bring that word here.
I love it. Care.
As you're talking also about ecosystem, and there was something that this person in my life, when him and I first came together, one of the challenges that connected us that we were both coming through was environments that were a bit more cultish,
Mhm.
a very strong
Oh,
agenda for how things
mhm,
would unroll and unfold. And we really valued the teachings that we had gained in those places.
mhm.
Then we're struggling with the sovereignty of ourselves outside
Yeah,
the environment.
because they wanted to own the institutional structure of of the wealth and the property of the institution and the prestige and the social capital, mistaking all of that for the seed of truth that really was its own original impetus.
Mm.
And you come to it, you know, open and vulnerable and like a child, and the seed is what you're of truth is what you're responding to. But then what you have to put up with is the institutionalization and the kind of institutional behaviors that are very separate from that original, impulse. And preserving that original impulse is the mark of that's the mark of the true propagation of the seed, right? At the different levels, a seed becomes a plant. The plant becomes a part of an ecosystem and reproduces. And yeah, we really haven't learned how to do that. Again, my diagnosis is our exteroceptive bias, our scientific analytical bias, and our failure to see ourselves as an integral part of that process from within, and to surrender to that truth that comes from within. Nope, 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 nope. I'm just another white guy trying to make a living. I have to think about my bank account. I have to think about my prestige. I've got to upgrade my car so I look respectable. No, and it's like we 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 we're really afraid, in a sense, to be ourselves, and we're trying to fit in. And I mean, as a gay guy who came out at like age 47, like that's ridiculous. That whole time I was living a lie, and it's a really is a brilliant revelation when we come to recognize our true inner self, and that's a pretty dramatic kind of paradigm shift. To get back to paradigm shift is to say my gender is different than I have been advertising for 50 years. Okay, sorry. I
No,
just talk a lot.
no apology needed. I'm right here. I
It's a
really,
lot.
I brought up that example also with that situation to remember.
Yeah,
And for
right.
me, you were starting to talk about elegance as beauty too, and I had been calling the work that I was creating Elegance Lab for a while because, and it was
Yeah.
felt old for me to put the word lab there because I was
Oh,
like,
but it's fun though. It's fun.
I'm an artist, I'm a coach, I'm not in the sciences, but I was like, but this is motherfucking science. Like there's over
Yeah.
and over. I'm like, it is though, like that I am in a new science, the new consciousness, new science. It is a thing. I'm
Mm.
not going to deny it. And
A lab is a space, a lab is a controlled and careful space for the pursuit of a certain kind of a goal separated from other things. And it's not, it's again, it's like the model, but it's a porous system. But the lab is the construction of a space where we can explore this kind of safely. And, it can be so, a yoga studio is a kind of a lab. My clinical space when I ran my office was like a kind of a lab. It's like when you come in, then boom, that's different. And when you go out, that's different. And
yeah.
a lab is a good thing. Yeah.
And
Laboratory.
lab what?
A laboratory.
A laboratory. And yeah, I want one of the things that I learned from me and this person's connection, because I really do, I believe we will find our way back to each other potentially in this life. I
Yeah.
don't as collaborators, there's really something magical in what we want to
Oh.
create, but we were both afraid of conflict because of the
Mm.
environments we we're coming from, and the
Yes.
that
Mm.
hold really hold space for
Mm.
in the ways that we were each offering in the environments. And we were
Yeah.
both writing books with these spaces too. We were supporting them in authorship.
Yeah.
We were like deep in the processes. And what was very powerful is that I ended up the phrase that surfaced for me after that karmic explosion is the phrase I like to use from one of my teachers, who says like a karmic explosion is like
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes says souls we meet, sometimes it's souls we meet, and it's like, oh
Right.
gosh, we're so in the same place, it's great. And sometimes we actually, I think, need to ignite something that actually
Yeah.
shift. And there's
Right on.
power in that too. It's not just
Oh no.
bad or negative or painful. It can
We
be,
are equipped for that experience.
yeah. And so the phrase that came to me at that time was like elegance unfolding
Yeah.
is the phrase that when with the clients even that I was working with, I started call before that I had been writing on my emails and things, Elegance Lab, and it's still Elegance Lab is still a place, but then I just started putting the phrase elegance unfolding because I was like,
Good.
oh, this is not this. I've been needing to know how to surrender control in this process
Yeah.
and how to uh I'll just speak this and maybe and
Yeah.
ask your own how you steward the seed you are welcoming but also stewarding is like I'm going to create some container, the lab or the
Yeah.
or the
Yeah.
consulting or whatever,
Sure.
for a process to get to be present. But I'm also a part of Elegance Unfolding. I'm also a part of something that has no name, that cannot be institutionalized at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is unfolding through my being and my life
Mm.
action. And that's even before I got on here today. That's something that I was
Yeah.
into my following on Instagram. Like there is professional work that I'm
Yeah.
creating the conditions for where boundaries are very important because boundaries
Yeah.
are safety,
Yeah.
change. But there's also a cultural change process happening that I'm living into, speaking into,
Mm.
that has no bounds
Mm.
and involves everyone and everything.
Mm.
And yeah.
For me, a couple of thoughts come to mind. I mean, first of all, you know, I read what's his name, Michael Pollan's book on kind of drugs and psychedelics, and it's like originally, the labs in which they conducted these trips were very intuitive and very much molded on kind of maybe more indigenous sorts of principles. And what Michael Pollan points out is it's set and setting. The set and the setting. The set is the kind of the people that are there and the intentionality, and the setting is the space. And as soon as it became scientific, which it did back then, science took over. The people had clipboards and white lab coats, and the space was a basement with, bright lights and bare walls. And people invariably had bad trips because of the set and setting. And so if we're gonna, so the reason why I'm muscle monk, muscle, muscle's an erotic thing for me. I'm a muscle bear. I like muscle. It's erotic. I like big muscles, but like a lot of guys, but I mean, a lot of women, um, but that's not the muscle that is going to save the world, right? Otherwise, I'd be out there teaching barbell lifting. And, there's this deep inner muscular system, micro movements, this deep sensory inner self awareness in the muscle. The muscle is the most sensory aware part of our body. Of course, the skin is, but the skin is inert. It's the muscle and the sensory content of the muscles that really informs. But I'm muscle monk. And the monk just came perfectly natural. There was no debate. It was like muscle monk. Monk, why? Because that's the laboratory, that's the setting that's necessary to access this deep inner self, is something more monkish and more sacred and, not, in the old language, not secular, right? Something that's sacred and spiritual. And as a monk, I don't have a monastery that's giving me permission to be a monk. I'm an itinerant monk. I'm an urban monk. I'm a self-created monk, and there's plenty of those, and always have been throughout history. But I'm less worried about the religiosity of it, than the sacredness of what it is that I'm holding inside of myself, and also that I've been, working so hard to be able to hold in words in my head and in words on paper, etc. And yeah, so that's kind of my response to that. And I think that you're in a very same creatrix again, sexuality and gender, these are sacred paths to self-fulfillment and to growth. And these are not something that we should be shaming and hiding, if we want to emulate a kind of a natural world kind of ecological model of being, right? It doesn't make sense to do all the crap that we do around it, which really results in abusive, possessive behaviors.
Yeah.
And I don't have the solution for sexual problems, except
I do.
Okay.
I wrote it in a manual, and you can buy it for $599.
500 what?
$599.
Oh, okay.
Act now, and I'll throw in a free session note.
No, but go ahead and share it. What's your point?
This is not something that can be bought and sold.
Okay. Oh, I get it. Oh.
I'm just mocking the industry I'm a part of.
Oh! I thought you actually had a book you wrote.
Oh no, I love mocking the salesification of embodiment.
Yeah. I mean, we're at the point in human history where we can deal with these things in a very pragmatic way, and it's very pragmatic. And that's something that I've really come to be very, very confident about, is that as soon as someone starts to say, oh no, this is mythical, you'll never understand, I'm the true teacher, oh no, it's all in the book by Buddha, and it's like, well, yeah, but I mean, we're at a level of evolution and enlightenment, and this is, I think, something that many spiritual teachers will say, is that we're at a different level. You don't have to go to the mountains and in a monastery with a library and become a monk and become enlightened. You can do it sitting right here. And, not just because we have the internet, but that's a big part of it, but our kind of intellectual consciousness level is much higher, than it was. And, of course, that comes with the baggage of hyper intellectualization, but still, for those of us that want to go there, we can be clear, we can be explicit, we can be pragmatic, we can be very real and technical, with the truth. Um, it doesn't take away the deep, profound mystery of it.
Mm.
It adds to it. It adds to it.
I feel that it's important that we wind down in this conversation.
Absolutely. I'm wondering about what your schedule is. Yeah.
But I feel this is so important and powerful to name the practicality and the mystery
Mm.
together
Hmm. Yeah.
because it's also
Yeah.
something for me who focuses on the relationship side. I've
Mm.
been calling what I do the trust for a while. Well, at least subtly. At first, I wrote an article last year called Greater Trust is Possible. And then
Hmm.
somebody I meet with who I just named our Google Calendar
Is
sessions.
that the one that's $5.99?
That shit's free, 99. Um, that shit is you have to face yourself.
Hmm. Hmm. It's way more expensive than $5.99.
Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. It's gonna be shedding some skin. The
Mm.
cost is your current identity, but like really starting to be so engaged in reliability and trust and for me that's how I picture structure of DNA and I picture that's what I do.
Mm.
I literally am very visual, so I'll try to purposefully invoke images in nature that do feel trustworthy to me.
Mm.
Remind
Mm.
myself that this process is, I'm putting quotes because I don't even know what sometimes
Mm.
I'm like, sometimes I have this flavor of like, I don't know what I'm talking about. And so
Mm.
I'm like, it just is, it's the, I think you would frame it as the movement with it. It's something within
Mm.
that's
Mm.
calling me to say, go deeper,
Absolutely.
go deeper. And it's trustworthy. It's going to show up for me as I speak into it, as I lean into it. Even one friend who's in this space with us, I don't mean to say just us, anyone can be in this space, but questioning, welcoming the precipice, new ways of
Yeah.
she wrote to me this week and she said, it it sounds like uh choosing to do that in a way, okay, I was talking about the way that connection is starting to feel so fluid for me.
Mm.
Because for a while I kept feeling like
Mm.
when I
Mm.
started thinking about the bigger picture, it's taking so much
Mm.
effort, extra time. And I
Mm.
lately a lot of because I work in the space of business and I've worked in academia, like a lot of people will I get a lot of feedback to like choose my buckets or choose my path in a more refined way. And
Yeah.
I also, I want to be well communicated, but I also believe the ask of the movement within for me has been to connect more dots. So it's
Hmm.
not about buckets alone, it's about dots. And anyway, this friend framed it as choosing to do that in a way that takes care of you as an inherent part of it all. Okay, let me read the full thing. One of the reasons there's so much available to you right now is because you're paying attention. You're noticing, you're letting information in. Choosing to do that in a way that takes care of you as an inherent part of it all is arguably what all this might be about.
Mm.
And it just, to me, because I am someone who came from the religious side of things, who's been really
Hmm.
on releasing this missionary story that there's like a
Mm.
savior
Mm.
story that will save us if
I
we just
love it.
have the
I
right
love it. Mm.
story. Um,
No, it's Musclemonk's on board with that one.
I
I love religious metaphor. I think it's sacred, so important for rational thinking needs religious metaphor
like,
because again, coming from the externalities to the internal
yeah.
vitality that's so important that we need to grasp and understand and be able to build upon and share and that we need to constrain. We need that internal kind of wisdom. We need that because it constrains the externalities, right? I can't do this with my body if my core isn't ready for it. And we shouldn't be doing this with technology if our core isn't ready. But we don't know what the core is. And so we have to restore that inner awareness. And Yeah. So I think that in terms of like the DNA, I wanted to say, like you said about the DNA, and this is very important, we really have sort of sanctified the DNA as like, well, God damn it, we knew there was like a mathematical code or a book in charge of everything.
Mm.
You know, I'm in charge of everything here, and I have a policy book and read the policy book, and that's how it works. It's in the book. I know the DNA. See, that's the truth of life. Is the DNA is like a little book that tells everybody what to do. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Everybody was really happy with DNA theory, and they don't want to hear the fact that DNA is very, very plastic,
Mm.
very plastic, and it's very contingent
Mm.
on what? What is it contingent upon? It's contingent upon its milieu, its environment. And the DNA itself is nothing without all of the little RNAs or whatever the hell it is that is coming in and out through the system. But it's contingent upon the system itself. The DNA is like again, that's like a model,
Mm.
but the model has to have a kind of a larger sort of setting. So, it's like the seed being dropped without the context of the cytoskeleton of the cell and all of the contents of the functional contents of the cell, which are very tightly packed, and the cell membrane and the environment that the cell is within. All of these are required for the basic functioning and the survival of the cell. And the genetics is really just a part of that larger truth. And the genetics is not somehow this software program that tells everybody what to do. It's being told what to do, and it's interacting. And I can't remember what I was trying to make, but that we like to find these sort of master codes. And well, if you find a master code and you're a master of it, then that means that, oh, now you're kind of enlightened, and now it becomes fluent, and now it becomes really not so self-centered anymore. It really becomes a part of a whole, and I think that's where we're at scientifically, is we're starting to really grasp
Mm.
that, and we're starting to be able to kind of identify and define and mathematically formulate, even mathematically. It's a new kind of math that I don't understand. I don't understand the old kind of math,
Mhm.
but we're not left, naked by these deep inner truths. We're enriched by them. And Dennis Noble is a guy who's big on this, and that look, genetics. We really want to enshrine genetics as this sort of code book of life, and it's, well, really, genetics is very, very plastic and contingent, and what's happening is what's happening, and the genetics are interacting with that. I don't know a lot about this kind of stuff, and I don't need to know it. I'm happy to know what I know about muscle. That makes more sense to me. And about this deep inner muscular system, that's where I can go. I think that if I spent my life talking about, cellular mechanics, I don't think that I would have. I think I needed to be touching people deeply with this kind of mindset and healing them and loving them and making mistakes, all kinds of mistakes, but keeping it up in order for me to be Musclemonk, and in order for me to have the message that I have,
Mm.
and in order for me to be able to see what I see,
Mm.
and it's hard for me to share what I know with people that think they know more than I do, or they think they know something more important. You know, it's like trying to talk to the church. It's like, yeah, but Jesus said love people, and they're like, well, within that, and you're like, I gotta go where I gotta go. I gotta be who I gotta be. I gotta do what I gotta do.
That's
I don't know.
yeah.
We're closing down.
we're closing down, but I do just want to, I think that's, I like to acknowledge, like I thrive in, I'm still finding my place or finding the place that will bring me the most aliveness. And but I do feel that that place for me has to do with the emotional realms and is a very abstract realm that I tend to uh thrive in supporting people in. I'll just give an example. Like several years ago, when I was coaching someone who her internal experience that was happening while she was processing some trauma had extremely vivid and painful images around it that had to do with like physical deterioration.
Oh.
And even while I was coaching it, it was actually one of the only sessions I've had that I felt like I was getting nauseous, like holding the space. But I kept on, I was new to coaching. This was 2 years ago. But I just kept, I have a very, very, very strong belief in like the images that come to us have meaning, and the new images, like sometimes in the same way very intense physical sensation has to happen
Hmm.
for the next
Hmm.
sensation. Sometimes very intense visuals have to come for the next to come. And I just kept trusting her intelligence knows where she's taking, knows, like
Hmm.
it's for me to see because I'm very sensitive and very connected
Hmm.
when someone's describing something, but it's real for her and it's real, it's in her lineage because it really felt much stronger too than just her
Yeah.
experience. And and we did move through it. And when she got to the end, she was like, thank you so much for this session.
Yeah. Sounds
Actually
great.
work in this space with a couple other people and they actually ended the session because they couldn't
Right.
be with this part. And
Oh.
so, yeah, I just want to
Hmm.
welcome also this reminder that we all have our place in this process. And it doesn't, I don't know, just inquiry into that, inquiry
Hmm.
into our,
Acceptance. I'm hearing acceptance,
yeah,
and acceptance. Often we change who we are to try to be accepted, or we think we're accepting the other people, but there's a kind of an imperative in the air. In my opinion, there's an imperative in the air. We're facing a crisis that is beyond anything we've ever experienced, and that imperative is always there. It's the imperative of authenticity. It's the imperative of kind of evolution itself. Which is a process that occurs from within. It's not a process of conflict. It's a process of complexity, complexification, and differentiation, and harmony and integration. That's what evolution is, not conflict. And but yeah, there's an imperative, and I think that a lot of people are really ready to sort of put their money where their mouth is, put their feet where their heart is for a moment, and just stick with it. And that sounds really great. Sounds really great. Yeah. It's
thank
been really nice talking to you, Libby. I'm really excited to get connected with your channel and with your listeners. And, um, I really believe that we're living in an age of paradigm shift or transformation. And I have my finger on that. And, as a scholar, but also as a somaticist and a touch healer and a body worker, and as a body. And I have my finger on that pulse of that transformation. And, you know, um, it's always a challenge. So it's nice to find a laboratory where we can explore this and build on it and
you.
allow it to flourish. Let the seed, find fertile ground.
Indeed. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your commitment to your own process and to commit.
It's
Yeah. It's so special.
so self-serving and so fun. I love it. I'm so glad that I chose this path for my life. It's a lot of compromises, a lot of sacrifice.
Yep.
But Yeah, I appreciate your being willing to talk and explore with me, and I think that some of the deeper, very important sexual and erotic content, the sensual content, I think we can get to that in another talk. Because as a gay man, I have a good sense of that, and I have a good sense of how sacred and important that is, for for rationality, for truth, and for goodness. You know?
We definitely should have a separate talk on that, and I really value.
With a little bit of self touch. I mean, I'm a touch therapist. Touch is what I do. Touch is the truth is haptic, which is a fancy word for touch, and the tissues touch each other. We are always touching ourselves. That is what awareness is movement, the movement from within. Without movement, there is no life or consciousness. And that movement is muscular, and it's mechanotransductive, and it's tactile, only it's not a finger. I tell people, well, you touch yourself in your groin. And they're like, really? And they put their hand. I'm like, no, bring your legs together and just generate, or touch yourself in your throat. And they put their hand there. I'm like, no, this is touching yourself. Just that's what I mean. That's the truth. It comes from within, not from without. Always. You're going to have to end it because I'll just keep talking. That's my.
I know. I will too. I'm like, let's just stay here. I want more of it.
And I'd love to put you on the table, and I'd love to, work through the body in a way that's very sacred and respectful, but very profound and beautiful. As we make these points and touch, each other, that's what Musclemonk is, and that's how I work. But I've had a really good experience here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So grateful to host you here. Oh, you can connect with Musclemonk on Substack and musclemonk.
The Emergency with Musclemonk.
Okay. Oh yeah, Emergent.
And I have a website called Emergency, and then I have a website which I haven't been doing a lot on, but called Three Bones Theory, that gets a lot more into the anatomy. Three Bones Theory. It's on WordPress. I don't know if it's threebonestheory.com or threebonestheory.wordpress.org, something like that.
Thank you.